Good morning, folks. This is Mr. Dan coming to you from the Landscape Design Classroom, and today I'm going to talk to you about natural methods of insect control. So our main idea here, how can insects be controlled without toxic pesticides? If you take a look at the picture here at the bottom, this shows a robber fly eating a beetle. So it kind of looks a little bit more like a ladybug to me, but we'll get into this stuff a little bit. So chemical insecticides used to control most harmful insects, developed to kill insects threatening our food supply, and used by most Americans in the home, yard, or garden. Widely used in agriculture. We use a lot of insecticides here, especially in the landscaping and horticulture industries to get rid of certain pests. I know we even have some stuff out there right now for some stuff like the stink bug and some of these other bad things coming up. I know there's some stuff in development right now for the spotted lanternfly that they're trying to push out into the market because that's starting to become a pretty big deal the further up north that you get. Possible drawbacks of chemical pesticides, harm to bees and other beneficial insects. Excuse me, one moment. All right, my apologies, folks. So, possible drawbacks of chemical pesticide, harm to bees and other beneficial insects, development of pesticide-resistant insects, residues in food and water supply, effect on general environment, health effects for wildlife, livestock, and humans. So there's a lot of stuff here that can definitely affect a lot of what goes on in our environment and the animals and individuals and insects that live here as well. So ways to work with nature, encouraging or introducing natural enemies and predators, using less toxic biologically produced pesticides, using non-toxic insecticides based on mechanical control, using insect-resistant crop varieties. And let's just go back here real quick talking about encouraging or introducing natural enemies and predators. This doesn't always work out. So a few years ago, they released a stink bug killer into Pennsylvania to reduce the amount of stink bugs in Pennsylvania, but then they started biting people. So not everything is going to be the best thing ever to introduce in. So a lot of research needs to be done, and sometimes you don't have the time for that research. But just be very cautious if you get into one of these jobs where you end up doing this type of research and just introducing a new insect into the community. So natural insect enemies, also called beneficials. 3 groups: parasites, predators, and pathogens. Let's talk a little bit about parasites here. Also called parasitoids. An example here would be wasp lays its egg inside an aphid. Immature wasp develops on or inside the aphid. Immature wasp kills the aphids, and adult wasps emerge and repeat the cycle. So predators consume many during their lifetime. An example here would be ladybug, hoverfly, and lacewing, nymphs and adults feeding on caterpillars, beetle larvae, and adults and other medium-sized insects. If you take a look at the picture down here on the right, you see a lady beetle eating an aphid. Then pathogens, bacteria, viruses, fungi, protozoa, and some nematodes which kill their host. An example here would be the Bacillus thuringiensis. This is a bacteria used by organic growers, also used in genetic engineering to create insect-resistant plant varieties. So you'll see that a lot whenever you're doing plant research, especially stuff that has been ravaged over the years by different types of bugs. So 3 ways to control insect pests using natural insect enemies. Importation, importing natural enemies to permanently control pests. This is typically done when we accidentally get something brought over to the United States in shipping containers. Right now, one of the big ones that they're looking into are the giant killer bees coming over from China or from Asia. So be on the lookout for that. Augmentation, releasing groups of commercially available natural enemies. And conservation, modifying the environment to be friendly to natural enemies. So the conservation method receives the most attention, practical and easiest to use, top method used to reduce the rate or frequency of pesticide applications, biological control, using a living organism to control a specific pest, often used as part of an overall integrated pest management plan. And a little bit more on IPMs, combines pest management practices to reduce chemical use. Some examples here would be crop rotation, crop scouting, and use of beneficial insects. If you take a look down here at the bottom right of the screen, we have a grease lacewing larva dining on a whitefly nymphs. So economic threshold, the level at which the cost of damage is greater than the cost of the control method. Corrective practices like pesticides only used when the risk of loss is higher than the cost of the treatment. And then insect-resistant crops, some through traditional crop breeding, more rapid advances using genetic engineering and to produce genetically modified organisms. So there is a lot of debate here on GMOs and how they affect us as humans, especially in crops. We will get into that portion of it later, but just keep in mind here that these are used for beneficial things like keeping crops up and keeping crops good enough to eat, but there is definitely some problems there. So these are things that we're continually looking into, researching, and trying to figure out where we can get to the best in both worlds. Because overall, human health is the most important here. So GMO example, GMO cotton was developed by Monsanto in 1996. It uses a gene from Bt bacteria and controls certain caterpillars. The GMO corn, soybeans, and other crops have been widely adopted in the US. So like I said, there's a lot of debate here, but we'll get into that in another lesson. So less toxic insecticides, biological pesticides may be less toxic. Certified organic crops grown under the National Organic Program cannot use chemical insecticides. And I'm just talking a little bit about Bacillus thuringiensis. This is approved under the NOP program. Can target a specific insect, not harmful for birds, mammals, or fish, and possible harm to honeybees. Diatomaceous earth, the fossilized microscopic skeletons of one-cell organisms, sharp spear-shaped edges, punctures insects' waxy coats causing dehydration, not harmful to honeybees, and is a mechanical method. So a little bit on honeybees. Honeybees are probably the most important insect on the planet. And a lot of stuff that we've been spraying out over the years has started killing those populations down. There's a really great documentary on the loss of bees. But just to give you an idea that we were trying to do as much as we can to help out those honeybee populations. Pyrethrin, extracted from certain chrysanthemums, death and paralysis to insecticides, including honeybees, highly toxic for fish, aquatic organisms, and no harm to birds. Neem oil, extracted from neem tree seeds, insect repellent, disrupts insect feeding and hormone systems, non-toxic to birds, mammals, bees, and plants, moderately toxic to fish and aquatic life. And then PBO, not an insecticide on its own, acts as a synergist, making active ingredients more effective. So our bottom line here, alternatives to chemical insecticides include the use of beneficial insects and organisms, naturally derived pesticides, changes to the environment, and the use of insect-resistant plant varieties. Now, using a combination of these strategies is called integrated pest management. So any company you ever go to, especially if it's somewhere that deals with the outdoors, you will definitely have an integrated pest management plan. You can also have an integrated pest management plan for the inside of a building as well. So just be aware that there are more natural methods to controlling insects. Is it always the best way? No, but there's not always going to be the perfect way to do every single thing. So make sure you research your methods. And then After trying those methods out for a while, go back and assess, and then just research and continue to do what you need to do to make your business successful and to try to help out the environment. So that's the end of my lecture. If you have any questions at all, you can contact me down in the landscape design classroom, but I appreciate your time. Have a great day, folks.